Good morning. What I want to cover this morning, we're diving into the kind of the meat and potatoes of this digital process simulation. So this is kind of second part in our three-part series. So last week we talked about finding a process to model and then developing a SIPOC, right? So defining your suppliers, inputs, your different process steps, the different outputs potentially, and the customer, whether there's more than one. In our case, a customer is anywhere that product exits the system. So it could be to an internal department, or it could be to a paying customer, doesn't matter. But anywhere that material exits the system is considered to be a customer. Okay, so by now, ideally, if you're playing along with this assignment, you'll have chosen a process and you'll have developed a SIPOC to kind of document your process. And so now our next step is to build the actual model in Jaamsim. So Jaamsim by default comes in with this 3D view. And I am suggesting, for the purposes of this exercise, that we're just going to work in 2 dimensions. It just makes things easier for now. Is I switched to 2D. You can see up here, I switched to 2D. Jaamsim is nice. If you hover on these things, it gives you little clues as to what's going on. So I switched to 2D. And I don't need the grid, and I don't need the axis markers. They're not. This isn't a really CAD system. I'm not doing anything to scale. I'm not placing anything physically on a diagram or anything. So just a blank canvas is all I need. Let's just build a really simple model, and I'll talk through the process. I'm gonna build a fairly trivial model here. Every model handles something. So this is a sim entity. The sim entity represents the thing that's going to be passed through your process. Something has to deliver it into your model. So that is an entity generator. And I think of an entity generator like the supplier. This is what the supplier is going to supply, and this is the supplier. It's going to generate these and add them into the model. Okay. Now, then we can drag and drop in a conveyor. And all of these things, once it's in the model, if you click anywhere in the model and move around, it moves the entire model space. You can, here, I'll turn the grid on so you can see what's going on, right? It moves the entire model space. So what you have to get used to, I can turn the grid off again, is using the control key. And the control key, so I've clicked on this. Now I hold the control key and use the mouse, and now it moves, and I can either move the model or I can move the handles. Sim entity, raw material. And the entity generator is like the supplier. You can also move the titles around, like these guys have have the title, and you can rename things. And it's the Q then is a place to hold it. Now, if you want, here. Okay, so the Q is a place to hold the material before it gets worked on. And the server is like some process step. And Q is like your whip. I'm just going to toss in a second one here, just for sake of completeness. Then Okay, so now I want to, if this is as complicated as my model is going to be for the moment, it needs to, if my material is now finished, it needs to get out of the system. Right? It's going to get delivered to somewhere. You could like make this
warehouse storage.
Well, like, yeah, warehouse storage, finished goods, whatever, something like that. And then the warehouse ships to a customer. And in, so the entity sync, and you can see it's the positive and the negative. So this is the thing that brings material into the system, and this is the thing that takes material out of the system. So an entity sync is like the customer. Okay, so those are, so now I've got all the elements I need. Like this is the most basic kind of a model here. All the elements that like this is sort of the minimum that I would need for some sort of a process. So the next step is to connect them, because right now they're just a bunch of disconnected things sitting on my page. So what I'm going to do up here, these two buttons are really useful. This is show entity flow. So I'm going to turn that on. And the next one is create entity links. So if you can read it, when this is enabled, entities are linked when the selection is changed. Okay, that's not really all that explanatory, but so I'm going to click it. So now, just with the left mouse button, I'm going to trace the path. So the raw material is used by the generator or the supplier. It's conveyed, and you can see now I've got this arrow keep thing going on. It's gone, it sends to the conveyor, which delivers to the queue, which delivers to the processor, which delivers to the conveyor. So I'm just going click, 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 and out. So now I'm done. I've got this, I'm still in this sort of connecting mode. So I got to come up here, right? I don't want to be in connecting mode anymore. So now I'm going to turn this off. So now I'm free and clear. Now what's nice about this is, right? So you can see this connection persists. Doesn't matter where I move this. The connection is now understood. Right, so the system knows that wherever I put this, the material is going to go from the queue to the server to the conveyor. I've established the connection. Okay. So we could, in theory, run this model now, but the problem is that the default times for everything is that it takes no time at all. Like this process step here, if I come down to this, I would like to make this a little bit. I'll make this a little bit bigger so we can see. There we go. So this is the input editor. So this is where you're going to be putting in all of your details about all these different steps. So as I click on an object, now you can see now it's the input editor for the queue, or it's an input editor for this server one, or an input editor for the server called process step. Okay. And the service time down here is how long it takes this thing to perform its service, to do whatever it is, to complete the operation. And right now you can see it's 0 hours. Well, that's not particularly helpful, right? Nothing happened, well, not nothing, but I don't want this to be an instantaneous thing. If I click run, we're not going to see anything because everything's going to go, okay, nothing is taking any time at all. So I want to start putting in times. Now, you can see here that the default here is in hours. And if you're dealing with a very, very slow process, hours may be sufficient. But for me, that's not the units of time. I want to work in, I would rather work in minutes. Personally, that's what I kind of feel is the most practical or realistic. So first, I'm going to go up here to this units, and I'm going to change my time units down here from hours. Oops, time, yeah, where to go? From hours to minutes. And now you can see now we're dealing in minutes. I'm also going to change the rate unit to match. I don't want things to happen, something per second. I want something per minute, or so many per minute, not so many per second. So I want to make those two changes. In units, I want to change the time unit, and I want to change the rate unit. Speed units, fine, kilometers per hour, meters per second, that's fine. The other ones, I don't particularly care, kilograms, whatever. I'm not going to use any of these other ones. I guess distance unit, if you really care, you could set it up like it's set as meters. To me, that's a good default. Okay. So now it recognizes that it's going to deal in minutes. So I'm going to make this very, very simple and say, well, I don't know, let's say this is a relatively quick process. It's going to take 2 minutes. So I click down here and I'm just typing in 2 space. And the thing you have to remember is M is meters, minutes are MIN. So you have to just remember to type in minutes for minutes.
But Professor, if you just leave as 2, because minutes is already counted, so is it okay, or you have to put minute?
A unit of time minute is required.
Oh, okay.
Input error. So yeah, you need to be explicit. So then I'm going to go over here and make this also I don't know, maybe this is let's make it a slightly longer, 1.5 minutes. You can do fractions or decimals. The other one that you have to set up for timing is the generator. So there's a couple things here. Is first arrival time. So when does this supplier generate the first piece? Is it right at time 0, or does it take some time? So do whatever is appropriate for your model. I like to give it some pause before it's not just delivering something right off the bat. Then so the inter-arrival time, if I pause on this, accepts a number. Okay, the inter-arrival time between generated entities. So how much time in between each delivery? Okay. And so you could say, well, let's see. Let's say if I say something like, it will deliver every 5 minutes into my model. Then how many is it going to deliver? Let's say, I'll just keep it simple. It's going to deliver 5, like the number of entities to be generated for each arrival. So every 5 minutes, it'll deliver 5 pieces. Okay. And you can see already here, because I did all these connections, the next component is set as entity conveyor 1. Goes to entity conveyor 1. You can change this. You can actually pull down from this list and pick anything you want. Let's see, just so it'll be obvious, I'll pick entity conveyor 2 instead. And you can see now the arrow changes. But that's not what I want. So I'm going to switch it back to entity conveyor 1. So you can do this connection up here. I like to do, so the way I work, I tend to do this for the very first time. I put all my stuff in place, and then I go around and connect. But after that, if I want to make any changes, I don't tend to do this. I tend to go in here and just change the connections. Like if I was going to add another server in here, I would switch this conveyor, and instead of pointing to Q1, I might have to move it to Q2. I would pull this down, I would switch to something else and fix it from there. But personal preference, different ways of doing the same thing. Okay, what else do I need here? Oh, the conveyors. Okay. So the conveyors also have a travel time defined. So they tend to be a little quicker. Maybe we'll just set these up as 2 minutes. I think, now let's just see. 20s. Can we do this? Yes. So just because I've got the time units is set in minutes doesn't mean I always have to deal in minutes. I could say it takes 20 seconds. Now, you were asking before, somebody was asking before about, you know, if you had a paint, like you could make this painting, right? And then this, instead of painting being 20 seconds, I would make painting, I don't know, 4 minutes. But then this conveyor is just a genuine conveyor, and I'll make it 20 seconds. Right? There's nothing to say you can't sort of redefine what these things are actually doing. So it goes from this, maybe the server is I don't know, you know, sanding or whatever, and then, or, you know, prepping for paint, then painting, then it goes to this queue, and then you do some bending or drilling or whatever you want. One last conveyor here. I need to set up some time, and maybe like you could literally say that this takes one day, I think 1 day, D, right? Where, you know, you would need a long conveyor because it's going to get loaded up with stuff. I don't know how that's, it might look horrible if we've got this, but we'll see.
Although
Okay.
you'll be coming to the next point about the pileup at the queue, that was my thinking yesterday also, that because I'm making small parts for the assembly, they might be coming in from the supplier for the queue, let's say 2,000 pieces.
Sure.
And then when I keep on using the server, it will produce 1,500. So how am I going to pile up? Is there a shortcut to condense it somehow? Because I cannot say 2 pieces and 1 piece. It looks odd. It has to be 500 or 800, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll try to address that in a moment. Let's run this because I just want to demonstrate that piece of it. So you do want to save it. So I'm going to make this a BN simple line demo, whatever. You can also if you can spell, you can change the title to whatever you want. Okay, now I made a change, so we'll do a save. Now I'm saving to a network drive, so it's a little bit slow. But now you can run your model. And so you can see the time is ticking away here. I know it's a pretty small number, but 0.16 minutes. And it's slow. Like this is running in real time, but all these processors take minutes to do. Well, we don't want to sit here for 10 minutes and watch this. So it's now running at double time. Okay, boom. So there's at half a minute was our first shipment of 5 pieces. The server immediately took its first piece and it's working on it. And if I pull up this output viewer, I can actually see that it is this server running this simulation time. What's it actually doing? It's now been utilized for 67% of the simulation time. It's available. It is true that it is working. It's false that it is idle. So it's not, you have to kind of interpret what it's telling you.
So it will keep working for 4 minutes until it's done, then it moves to the next one.
Right. So I'm going to speed up time a little bit here. So now this is running at 8 times speed. So it's working away at this thing. This is being painted, like this is in the paint booth, right? Going through the paint booth. And at some point, let's see, at 5 minutes, every 5 minutes. So at 5.5 minutes, boom, there's another 5 pieces. Okay, and these are going to keep stacking up and up and up as we go. So this is where I'll answer your question. If I click on this queue, because this is ugly, and this is kind of what you're saying, you end up with this huge tower. That's the default for these queues, is that everything just stacks up. So if I go to, let's see, where is it? Format. So right now it's maximum per line is infinity, and the maximum number of rows is infinity. So I would like to set this for my model anyways, because I'm dealing in things in 5s. So I'm going to set it up so that it'll have 5 per line. Okay, so I'm going to reset. When I get this model, you're sure you want to reset the simulation time to 0? Yes. Okay. I'm going to run it again. Oops. And it's asking me, do you want to save it? I'm not going to bother right now. So it's running. Oh, you know why it's stacked that way? It's because that's why it's confusing. Because the default is like this. So it's, for me, it was stacking up, but that's sort of the normal setup. You can also, if you're dealing with smaller pieces, you could do this.
So what I wanted, if there are 200 pieces in the queue, then instead of having 200 symbols there, we can have 2 symbols. Each symbol represents 100 pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be like, that's probably the way I would deal with it, is define sort of your minimum batch.
Yeah, like, I'll put a small legend on the side saying,
yeah, so
each one is 100
every
pieces.
one of these is 100 pieces instead of a symbol for every single piece. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would do. I'll add the complication of an assembly operation, because it's the one that's a little bit weird. All right, so I'm going to, so I'll drag in an assembly operation. Okay, so the assembly operation needs its own 2 queues. Because it's going to combine 2 different things. And it can have multiple queues. It could be an assembly of 100 components, but I'm going to keep it really simple and make it an assembly of 2 different components. So I'm going to say the painting goes to this Q3. And I'm going to assemble something else. Like I'm going to assemble whatever's through here. It gets painted, and that's going to be part of the assembly, but something has to feed this queue. So I'm going to put in another entity generator and another entity. Now I'm going to change this entity, instead of, under this graphics here, instead of this entity being a sphere, I'm going to make it, I don't know, I'll make it a hexagon. Okay. And what? I guess I'll have a little conveyor. Assembly, and then another conveyor from the assembly. Oops. Down to this queue. Okay. Okay, so who can tell me what I need to do next to make all this work? Because this isn't going to work just yet. I need to do more.
You have to do the links, connections.
I have to do the links, exactly. So here, because I've added a bunch of stuff, and it'll be easy. I've turned on the connection mode, and so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click the sim entity, then click the generator, then the conveyor, then the queue, then the assembly. Now I can't, sorry, and I can keep on going. Then it'll go from the assembly to the conveyor to the queue. Okay, but I've already got the rest of it. So now I'm going to turn off this link.
You need one from Q3 to the assembly.
Exactly. So here I'm gonna do a different method just for grins. Let's see. I'm gonna go to this assembly operation and say the wait queue list is Q2 and Q3. So now, in theory, that should work, but I don't have any times, so I would like to add some travel times and a generator time. One at a time, fine. I have no idea if the timing is any good on this or not, but let's give it a shot. This assembly operation is going to take one of these shapes and one of the painted things. It's going to assemble it, and it wants to know what is it creating, because it's not going to pass on one of these tiny painted things. It's not going to pass on one of these. It's going to create something new, an assembly. So what does the assembly look like? So we have to define it defining another sim entity. And I'm going to change this graphics to be something different. Whatever, let's make it our rectangle. And okay, so then if I click on the assembly key inputs, and this is the one thing that's nice. If I go to key inputs, it's showing me this is a required input, and that's why it failed. What is the prototype entity? This is required. So I'm going to pull down and pick my sim entity 2. I can also, and you'll notice, I can read, this is the, this is whatever this assembled thing is. And if I click on my assembly, the names change, right? So it's smart enough that it's sort of keeping track of what I'm doing here. Okay, I'm going to turn off these symbols because that's just adding a little bit of.
Professor, don't you think the assembled thing has to go through the conveyor to the queue instead of, yeah, that's the way.
I'm just cleaning this up a little bit here. Sometimes I do find it's a little bit difficult to grab stuff in here, but anyways. Yeah, so this assembled thing, it's kind of like, these are just sitting here out in space, and they're not really, like I do find that's a little bit weird with Jaamsim. It's just sitting out here in space. I put it beside these, like I put this sim entity beside here, and this one beside the generator, and this one beside the assembly module. It's kind of like a legend or a label to me. Like this is what the thing is. This is what this will generate. This is what this will generate. This is what this will generate when it does the assembly. Okay, it's just telling the model what is the thing that your model is going to use. Okay, but now in theory, if I save this, it will check it. And then I can run it. You see this is still lit up here. I have to wait for this. I really don't know why. All of a sudden today, my some connection is super, super slow. Okay, so this generator is creating this thing. It'll go in a queue. This assembly can't happen until, I'm going to have a whole bunch of these, aren't I? This assembly can't happen until it gets some painted part. The painting is really slow. So here I'm going to speed up time briefly. Okay, so it happened very, very quickly. As soon as a painted part showed up in the queue, the assembly operation could work. And I have, let's see, assembly service time is 0. Maybe I should make it 1 minute. Okay, so now it's going to take 1 minute to assemble. And I guess I've got no time at all on the conveyor too. 1 minute to convey. So when this takes a minute to assemble, then it'll take a minute to convey. It'll go into this queue, and whatever this thing will work on it. It'll convey it out to this queue. Maybe this travel time of 1 day is a little ridiculous. Let's make it just 3 minutes.
Yeah, that will be the hardest part of this project, to make it exact timing and how the system flows perfectly.
Yes, and this is the thing. This is what you're going to have to work on, is kind of cleaning it up. Like here, I've got all this stuff is just stacking up at this queue. And this is again where I would like to then, I'll set maybe set it so that it stacks up a little bit nicer, and maybe this is a bit too big, so I'll change the picture a little bit. And so yes, you're going to have a bit of, you're going to spend some time then kind of oh, I'm pushing the wrong button, that's why. You're going to spend some time kind of tweaking your model, playing around with things, moving things around.
And
Okay.
is there a system inside that when it is a Friday, like today, the system starts to shut down for the weekend?
So there's like, this is the cool thing with all of this, all of these software packages. What I've got right now is, you know, about as complicated as I'm expecting you to produce. If you handed me something like this, properly labeled and with the diagrams and with the graphic elements changed and got some balancing going on, I'd be a happy camper. That's great. There are all kinds of things, like if you click on these servers, there's this whole maintenance schedule. Forced maintenance, opportunistic maintenance, immediate breakdown, forced breakdown. So there's all these times that you can set for doing different maintenance work. You can set these different operating thresholds and release thresholds where it won't run, for example. Like you could have this server where it won't actually run until you have maybe 500 pieces in queue. Or it will stop if you have too many pieces over here or something like that. Like you can, so you can set up Kanban signals, you can set up gates, you can set up thresholds, you can set up breakdowns and maintenance. You can define all kinds of things. You can have available like resources to say there has to be a person available, or there has to be a forklift available, or there has to be a truck there. You can, for these timings and things, for service times, you can set up expressions. You can do all kinds of cool things here. Okay. So.
It doesn't look good that you have a bottleneck at Q3. You have to have some there.
Yeah, clearly. Well, and this is sort of the optimization that you have to do. Clearly, my this guy is generating something far too quickly. I need to make this maybe every 3 minutes then instead. Okay. Hey, my model looks a whole lot more balanced though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks very good except for conveyor 2. Can you slow it down for half a second?
Conveyor 2 needs to be slower. You can also change, let's see, in the assembly operations, the number required. Here, I'll just pause on this for a moment. Oops. Number required. So accepts a list containing dimensionless numbers and the number of entities required from each queue for processing to begin. So right now the default is 1, but you could set it so that it will take from Q, so it's in the order Q2, I'll take one piece and two pieces from Q3. So now you should see Q3, every time it assembles, is going to drop by two pieces. So it doesn't have to assemble one of everything. It'll, now I've got it set up that it'll draw one of these and two of these. I don't understand why, where's this? Why is the conveyor not conveying? Next component goes to the sink, 3 minutes. Does anything actually get delivered to the customer?
Yeah, no, because you have to say like it's in storage right now. If customer demands 500 pieces per day.
Oh, you know what? That's because it's just sitting in queue. Okay, you know why? Because I know why. I know why. Here, let's reset this. Reset, reset, reset. There is nothing to convey it. It's just right now we have a warehouse, but no shipper. we need a shipper.
Yeah, he's in quarantine 14 days.
Yeah, there you go. That's the problem. All right. So we need a shipper who, and then we can go, let's see. So now I can make my connections here. Make them visible. So now I'm going to go from, oops, I don't want that, just a minute. So I want to go from the queue to the shipper to the conveyor, and it's already going to the customer, so I don't need any more connections.
So the customer needs 500 pieces. So only when the queue is reached 500, then you ship it. That would look nice.
Yeah, instead of shipping each single one, yeah, can I do that? Next component, weight match, selection condition. Well, actually, what we would do then, if you wanted to do something like that, okay, blame this guy. He's making it complicated. What I would actually do.
No, because I'm thinking about my SIPOC. That's why I'm asking you to make it easier for me later.
I would do a pack operation here. So the pack operation, next component, yeah. So I would replace this with a pack instead. So the next component to packing is the conveyor. The weight queue is the finished goods queue. And number of entities, the number of entities to pack in the container. So we're going to pack, I don't know, what's reasonable, 6 or something like that. And it'll take, I don't know, 30 seconds to pack. Oh, prototype entity container. Oh, it needs containers. Okay.
You can just put maybe a skid or pellet or something.
Actually, to an existing entity container. Yeah, so I guess I need to actually have.
It showed an error in my process as well. Once I started to stimulate, there is an error saying that prototype entity container must be specified.
Right. So that's what I've got too. And so here, so I'm gonna make this the container. Like it has to have something. Oh, now do I need a container? What I'm afraid of, am I going to need a container queue? Prototype entity container. Oh, I need an entity container. I'm sorry, here, hang on. Entity container. So not a sim entity. Apologize. An entity container. Whoa, baby, that's a little large.
Where did you get that from?
So I pulled that out of here. It's next to the pack operation. There's an entity container.
Oh, okay.
I forgot about that. Yeah. So now the pack operation required input Now I can pick from the entity container. And I think with the pack and unpack, like I don't know if default, I don't have to set anything. There's no required values in here. Let's give it a try. Oh, but I probably have I need a packing time. Do I need a pack? I got it. Right, I have that plugged in. So that might be enough. Let's give it a try. Chug, chug, chug. Here, let's speed this up a little bit. Rock and roll. Okay, 7 goes in the queue. There, 2, 3. I should have made this a smaller number. 4, 5, 6. Boom, 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 boom. There you go. Pack, 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 pack. And out it goes. There. Okay. Now, this is not pretty, right? There's nothing pretty about this. And that's going to be the next here. First off, I'm going to get rid of these arrows. That'll be the next thing that I'll ask you to do, is to make things a little bit more attractive. And that's what I'll explain that in the next lecture, which I'll record. I may actually get lazy and use a pre-recorded version of it, since I've already delivered that lecture once. But I'll just give you a little bit of a preview. Well, okay, no, I want to answer questions. Does anybody have any questions? I did say I would answer questions.
Well, I think it looks very good now, except for what you just said, that maybe you need some little graphics to show the livelihood.
Yeah, and I think I also need to make this sort of 10. That's pack operation, state graphics, position, alignment. That's the graphics of the whole thing. Yeah, okay. I guess I can't change how it looks when it goes in. It's kind of weird. Unless the queue, like, does it format 5 per line? What if I made it?
So instead of conveyor 4, can we just stick and paste a forklift there?
Instead of conveyor 4. Yeah, conveyor. So conveyor 4 is effectively like a forklift.
Yeah, but instead of writing conveyor 4, we just put a picture of forklift. Should it work?
Yeah, I guess it won't move. The forklift
give
won't,
it a try.
the forklift won't move. That's all.
Yeah, it's okay, but at least it looks as if something is with transportation.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. If you want to do a little bit of, so just to give you, so let's insert a slide.
Professor, just a question. How do you speed up the process and see whether it goes fast, how it works? How do we speed up the process?
So that's while it's running here, this up and down arrow, you can change. So that's, normal. If you're running it at normal speed, it's 1 to 1. It's a speed multiplier, like what it's saying here. It's a speed multiplier.
Okay, got it.
Clearly, I have way too much being delivered. And that'll be one of the things that I want you to try to do. If you run your model and you have this huge buildup, like it's telling me that it's not really a good representation of the model, because like they wouldn't, if you were responsible for this process, you wouldn't have it so that you just end up with tons and tons of material sitting here in queue. So I would want to go through and change this generator now to say, instead of generating every 5 minutes, maybe I need to stretch it out to every 8 minutes or something like that.
Professor,
And then if I run it, it should run better. Go ahead.
I think the supplier thing, usually, for example, a supplier would supply to the company, say 3 months once or 1 month in a monthly basis, right? So that's why it's get piled up over there. So we have to say we have to write it as, convert that into minutes according to the process, how it goes.
Yeah, you're right. So you're kind of suggesting you wouldn't do this. You wouldn't have an inter arrival of every 8 minutes. You might have it every, I don't know. Let's be Toyota, every 2 hours. But then it would deliver 100 or something. I don't know. Obviously have to figure out what the what's right. Yeah. So it would,
Maybe the sum time of all the process.
it would drop ship a whole bunch. And 2 hours worth, 4 hours worth, a day's worth, a week's worth. Yes, so absolutely. But then it's not going to deliver any more for another 2 hours. Yeah. And so this is just it. This is what I want you to play with and try to come up with some reasonable approximation of your system, right? Whatever reasonable looks like for you. Okay, I haven't got the chat, so it's visible. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Questions. Looking at your own SciPoc. Does anybody want some advice or not sure the best way to do something?
Professor,
Yeah,
so I just had a question.
sure.
So on the conveyor belt, if there is no process happening, then we can leave the the name empty, right? Just a line, or do I need to enter conveyor 1, conveyor 2, conveyor 3? If nothing is happening on the conveyor belt.
If something is happening on the conveyor belt,
Yeah,
like this,
there are places where painting and varnishing is happening on the conveyor belt.
yeah. So I would just do it like I have. Just name it something appropriate.
Okay, and is there a way that we can change the angle of the writing on the belt or somewhere? I mean, it's the specific one.
Yeah, there's this, I don't know if you can see it. There's a little,
Yeah.
So there's the boxes on all sides to shrink it, but then this handle out here. So if I hit the control key, if you can see, I'm over here. So I hit the control key and spin it. And then
Okay, thank you.
I have to sort of kind of carefully find it or find the line. Jeez. Yeah, like that?
Yeah.
Right. Kind of like I did here. I spun this one so it's facing down. And like Bandali says, this really should be, it's kind of offensive that they think that inventory points that way, but
I guess you have to find wherever you have some extra room, we're going to point it that way. So makes the diagram a little bit better.
yeah. And so this is what I'm going to say, remind you that you have that much space to work in. So you can have a pretty, like you can spread this out as much as you want. You can go to town with this. There's advantages and disadvantages to every program. And I will say that one of the advantages to Jaamsim, this program, is that it's open source. So it's free to use and it's distributed without restrictions. So this is 100% full feature. Everything that Jaamsim can do, you can do, right? This isn't a crippled version or anything like that. And so it has the capacity to build very, very complicated models. And so that's really cool. FlexSim, which is the alternate that I would suggest you could consider. Don't make your life difficult and try it now, but FlexSim is a competitor to Jaamsim, and you can try it for free. So it's a unlimited time. You can download it and run it. It's almost fully featured. It's got everything you need in it, certainly. And it has a limit of 30 elements in the model. So we've got like each one of these processors and conveyors and things is an element. And so I could do this level of complexity I can do in FlexSim, but at some point it'll be a bit too much. Actually, would you like to see a quick FlexSim model? Why don't we for Grinch? Does anybody else have any questions? Please take advantage of the fact that I'm here and ask me questions if you have some. So, where is?
Yeah, probably we can ask a general question about the SEPOC we sent. If you can give a feedback that this looks should be okay,
Right.
or no, maybe change it or something.
Yes.
Then we get a good feedback before we start doing it.
So fair enough. Yes, and I will do that. I will exactly. I'll try to give you some feedback on the SIPOCs that you upload. Okay, so this is FlexSim. So I generated a model. Let's see if it comes up quickly here. So this is just a simple model that I created of a little CNC machine shop. Okay. And what's nice with FlexSim is like you can do it in 2D, but FlexSim is pretty cool. It deals in 3D. And so you can bring in a little bit more interesting, like your graphics can be more interesting now. And the other nice thing with FlexSim is that it understands people. And so my machines need people to run. So now my operators are setting up and running parts. I got my little inspector here going, come on guys, give me something to check, man. Let's get on with it, right? I got a team leader back here doing scheduling work. She spends her time between scheduling and sitting on her cell phone. Here, I'll speed up this model a little bit. Make it run a little quicker. Oh, I guess I had it stopped. Why did I have it stopped? So this is, FlexSim is certainly a little bit prettier. Again, running in real time is a little bit tricky because I'm trying to make this a more of a realistic simulation. But okay, and then she inspects materials and decides if they're good or bad. I've got a little more crap programming built into here where there's sort of statistical models that decide whether pieces are good or bad. And yeah, and then this person loads them into a tempering furnace before they go to finished goods and stack up in finished goods. Anyway, so you can do more complicated things than in FlexSim with people involved and a little prettier graphics and stuff. It's definitely prettier, but you can see down here model limit. So this model sort of fits perfectly within the free model. A free model gives you 30 elements, and I have 26 in this one. So I could make this just a little bit more complicated, but not by much. And then I'm done. It's just all I can do with the free version of FlexSim, but it's still cool. Okay, but that's sort of a diversion. For now, it's a little bit more difficult to use, like it's prettier and stuff, but but this is, I want, it keeps things a little more simple for your first go. And then you can decide if you have a need for simulation, like if you think you can find an application for it, then you could either, in my mind, you got two choices: either stay in Jaamsim if you want to have a whole bunch of pieces involved, like if your model needs to be fairly complicated with lots of stuff, then keep on Jaamsim because it has no limits. If you want it to be prettier to impress the boss, and your model is not too complicated, then by all means switch to FlexSim. If your model is complicated and you want to impress the boss and there's some money to spend and it's your company's money, then subscribe to FlexSim, pay for it, or some other. There's Arena, there's tons of others, like Siemens has models. In my last lecture I showed you, there's a list that you could choose from. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. Pick what you want. Okay. Somebody's asking, where can we see this recording after you upload? So all my recordings for this whole course, all my recordings are all in a YouTube. They're on YouTube in an unlisted playlist, but the link is in the course. Under course information. Okay, go to course information, and there's a hyperlink to my recorded lectures, and you can find all of them there. I've uploaded every lecture so far is there. Okay. I think some people have found it. I also, on my YouTube channel, I actually have some unlisted walkthroughs of Jaamsim too, because I've been doing this for a while, and I find having some online support is useful. Okay. Are there any other questions though?
I do have one.
Yeah, go for it.
One thing about this is I have 100 products to be packed in a container and sent to the say customer. It looks ugly. So how do I make it better?
Oh, kind of like this thing has this
Yeah.
a bunch of
Can you see over there in the QWIP where it piles up and then goes to the server process step 1?
Yeah.
So it looks like that in the container place and the previous one. So it's hard to change that. I tried everything. It says I should reduce the entity, rather number of entity. So if I reduce that, then the SciPoc of my entire process would change, right?
Yeah. So here's, okay, if you can see my screen, what, because it happens for this too, when 6 of them all get stacked up, and then they get shoved up inside here. What I would suggest is if you go this show entities on, what I've done is I've clicked the entity container, and under the entity container editor on the format tab, I'm going to switch this from true to false. Show entities, and I'll bet, okay, so I'll make sure that's taken. Now I'm gonna just speed things up a little bit. Come on, you. Oh, hang on, I may have to reset. Before that takes a hold. Sorry, do I want to save? No, I don't want to save it, just run the darn thing. See how that works. There, see? So it shipped it without showing, so when the stuff has gone inside, it disappears. So I think does that solve your problem?
Yeah, a little bit. I have to explore more, I guess. Let me try.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Professor,
you can also set like the spacing maximum per line. Like right now it's infinity. You know, you could have also made it, I don't know. So it's only going to stack 2 per. Okay, my alternative, I could have said 2 per line and then show them.
And if I have already set up a SciPoc, and if that doesn't look fine in my model, should I change my SciPoc according to what it makes sense, or because I have just gone through with what actually happens in an environment?
Yeah.
But when I do that in the model, it looks very complicated and things piles up, and it doesn't look so because you don't have a warehouse option over here where everything can be piled up. And if I say that is piled up, it shows like what it is in the QWIP. So
Where's
it
the,
looks ugly.
it looks ugly. Okay. And so is it a queue that looks ugly? Like things are,
And I mean, it piles up, right? When it goes to the and same thing in the container and to the dispatch, it doesn't look good.
okay. So if
It's
it's,
like,
if it's strictly visual, then I would, rather than play with the numbers, play with the visuals. So that's where I've set maximum per line is 2 here, and also for the entity container, I said maximum per line is 2, and that way it sort of it moves as a chunk instead of this long row. So that looked better. If the problem is kind of like what we were having here, where way too much material is stacking up, like it's a bad process, then I would say go and change your model. Go and change the how frequently material is being moved, or how long processes are taking. So you're welcome to play with all that stuff. And I always say, so I would rather, if you create a site, like you've submitted a SIPOC, or you're submitting a SIPOC to me, you've made your best guess of times and stuff. Don't feel locked in by that. If you plug all that stuff into your model and you go, oh, this doesn't work well, like this is always waiting, this is always stacked up, there's too much material, this is taking too long, whatever, feel free to play with all the times. Don't feel constrained by the SIPOC you submitted. It's okay if you override all those times and make adjustments, like I have been here, right? Tweaking these, playing with this, adjust this, tweak that, to make it run the way you want to. Feel free to do all of that. I much rather have you submit a nice working simulation than you be faithful to your SIPOC. If you want bonus points, give me a little explanation of what you did. Like say I had to, I changed it so that the supplier delivers a daily shipment. I changed it so the assembly time was faster. I recognized that the bicycle frame, the motorcycle helmet, the whatever had to be delivered at a quicker rate, something like that. Like if you tell me what you did, that's even nicer. But ultimately, I'm going to mark you on how well your final model runs. And I'm asking you to actually submit your model when we're done. I want you to give me your FlexSim model. Your Jaamsim model, because I'm going to load it and run it. This is what I'm going to be marking, is what I load and what I see for the most part. Okay. Any other questions? Does that answer your question?
yeah, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Please ask. We got 8 minutes left. You got 8 minutes to ask me more questions. I will upload this. As soon as I'm done the lecture, I will upload this to my YouTube channel. So you'll have access to this too.
So just a question about FlexSim as well. What you showed just a few minutes back. So is the missions and operators are already inbuilt in the software, or we are supposed to take from AutoCAD or something like that?
No, so you can see, so that operates as in a similar way, right? You still have your CAD space, and you still have all your pull downs down here that combine, or it's shown a little bit differently. Like they don't call them servers, they call them processors instead of, it's still called a sink at the end, that kind of stuff. Combiners, separators. So some of the names are different, but yeah, operators, you literally, like you have choices about what kind of operators. You just drag them into your model, and whoops, you drag them into your model, and FlexSim is really cool where it oh, my system is just not happy today. Wow. But you have all these different things you can change. Visuals, you can change the clothing, you can change different, like what kind of a person they are, person visuals, what they do when they're standing around. Are they impatient? Or do they get angry? Like there's all kinds of crazy things that you could do. It's kind of nuts.
So is there a paid software or is it
FlexSim,
available?
yeah, the trial is free. Like you can run, and what I like about the trial is that it's not like you get full features and then it expires after 30 days. You can download it and run it forever. It's the limitations are here. Model limit, it only allows 30 elements. Now, a person isn't an element, but if I bring another, if I brought another processor in there, now I've got 27 things in my model, and I could pull in 3 more things, and then I'm done, and that's all I can do for free.
Hope Conestoga gives it for free, like what they did with the other software.
Yeah, so far I am literally the only professor who does this, and so I've introduced it into the courses. So the other professors who are teaching the courses, that this course, for example, have to start using this too. But I'm introducing this AI and digital simulations and stuff into the course programs. So we'll get there.
Yeah, thank you.
This is cool, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, this looks so cool. I have done a lot of plant layouts to set
Yeah.
up a plant, and I get a lot of difficulty to find the process flow inbuilt in that. So if this is there, I can do a lot of work on it.
Yeah. So the other, so I haven't shown you here, but the other thing that you can do, like if you're doing plant layouts, is load up graphic files. So like if you had a CAD drawing of your plant, you could load the CAD drawing both in FlexSim and in Jaamsim. You can load them up as a background image. And so instead of a grid, things will be sitting on your plant floor drawing. And so you can literally move equipment around and put it, so it's not sitting in the middle of a column, sitting in this wall, this over in this office, whatever. And so you can technically build a working 3-dimensional working model of your plant.
I would rather try because I have a lot of machine drawings as well. Let me try that for 30 days. If it's fine, then I'll purchase it.
Yeah, well, like I said, there's no limit. Like it's the paid version gets you beyond 30 objects. Yeah. I don't know how much it costs. I haven't even they're not cheap. I'll tell you that. They are not cheap.
Okay.
It's like CAD software, right? Like to buy
I wouldn't.
AutoCAD costs you
I wouldn't.
$1,000.
I wouldn't. My consultant would. I'm just working for him as a freelancer. I would tell him to buy and give it to me. That's it.
Yeah,
For
there you go.
his job to be done.
Tell your boss, exactly.
Yeah.
It's his money, it's not yours. So
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'll just 11:57.
Professor,
Yep.
just had a quick question.
Sure.
Is there a way to delete this arrow, means the link which we have created?
Is there
The link between the two, like the server and the queued, and the link which we have created? Is there a way to delete?
there's a way to
Yeah.
show it and not show it. It's this up here.
No, I just want to do it again. Like I placed the wrong connection.
Yeah, okay. So if you like here, this painting, I have it going to Q3. Maybe I meant to go to Q1 instead or something like that. So in the input edit, like so when you click on the entity,
Okay.
the next component here is shown as Q3. So I would, instead of deleting the arrow, what I would do is just fix it here. I'd say, I don't want to go to Q3. I'm
Oh
going to
yeah.
do this pull down and say, I want to go to Q1.
Yeah.
Oops.
Thank you.
Right. And then it'll move it. Here, I guess I didn't click it properly. There, it'll move it to Q1.
Yeah,
I think
I got it. Thank you.
That's the easiest way of fixing it. Yeah, I only do this sort of automated way the first time through. It's a little bit simpler that way. Okay. Good. Okay, assignment 3, part A, due today or tomorrow. So when I talk about the due dates in the instruction plan, I think for the most part, I say end of the week. Did I not say end of the week for this one? I typically mean end of the week, meaning Sunday. Where are we? Yeah, assignment 3, part A, due end of this week. So for me, end of the week is like Sunday midnight. Okay, Sunday midnight. So for Alvin, you were asking that question. So Sunday midnight, please.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Right. So next week is Good Friday. Yeah. So kind of a pain. So what I'll do is either on probably before Friday, and I'll post an announcement, is I will upload a video, like I'll do the lecture, or I'll use the last, like, because I've already done this lecture and I should already have a recording. So if the recording is still good, I'll make sure that the recording is posted for you guys, and I'll post an announcement with a link to the recorded lecture, because the next step after this is to replace these images to make this look a little bit better. And all you're going to do is like there's these graphics down here, and it shows this display model. So you're going to change from this display model to how does it work? Darn it, why is it not showing? Oh, sorry, it's here. Change graphics. Change graphics. It'll pop up this menu, and then you want to import. Oops, and then that pulls up a box where you can import 3-dimensional files, but I don't want you to do that. Just import 2-dimensional files, and then you can import. Let's see if I have any here. I got like a VSM process button here. Well, yeah, import. So my graphic file looks like this, and if I hit accept, then my server, how it looks, changes to the image file that I have. So you just basically store your stuff as PNGs or JPEGs, and like low resolution. You don't want them huge files. Make them low resolution JPEGs, like small. You can build them in PowerPoint. Like that's what I do a lot. I built this in PowerPoint, and then in PowerPoint I saved it as a picture, and you save it as a JPEG, and then you can do like all these. Did this for the queue too. So you just right click it, change graphics, go to import. Keeps on going off to. And the thing what threw me off is the default is it looks for a 3-dimensional file. So you'll be pointing in your directory here and go, wait a minute, it's here. Well, but it's not a 3-dimensional file. So if you click it and scroll down to the next one, it will show up your your 2-dimensional. So I've got PNGs and JPEGs. And whatever you want it. Oh, that is.
What a coincidence. I was just going to tell you, pick the airplane, and you just moved there and picked it.
Yeah, I swear, my computer is doing weird things. Like it's stuck. Oop, there it is. Holy schmoly. What did it do? Oh, it's so annoying. I don't know what's going on with it. Clearly I need a reboot or something. I don't know why it's not taking. Anyway, something wrong with my computer the way this is working. highly recommend that you save your model, like whenever you run it, save it, save multiple copies if you need, especially, and I will say the Jaamsim is a little bit dicey when you start changing the graphics for whatever reason. That kind of, in the past, that is where sometimes the model really screws up. So please, please, please save your model, especially when you start changing graphics. Because I've noticed it will even screw up your arrows and things. Like it'll screw up your connections sometimes. It does weird, it has done weird things to some students' models in the past. So just, I recommend save early and save often. Okay. All right, awesome. So thanks very much. I hope you get something out of this. Like, I hope you enjoy using this. I really think that the power of doing digital simulation like this is amazing. Like, this is only limited by your imagination. The kind of stuff that you can model here, fantastic. Represent a working process, play with stuff, optimize, tune it. It's free, for God's sakes, right? You can do anything you want with the thing. Goof around with it, have some fun with it, like do something cool. Honestly, when I look at your work, I want it to run. I want it to run well. Like I want to make it so when I run it, it's not like, holy cow, you just dragged a bunch of stuff in, you didn't care what the numbers look like. Stuff is piling up, things are jammed, it looks like crap. Okay, don't make it like that. Put some work into it, make it look decent, make it run well, balance it off. And don't make it too trivial. Like, don't make it just where something comes in and it's like, oh, drill, bend, paint, done. 3 operations. Like, please make it complicated enough that I know you've put some effort into it. But after that, I'm not too picky. Go by whatever the instructions say. The assignment should be clear on what I'm looking for. Okay, I'm sorry we can't get together again on Friday, next Friday. I wish I could walk through the graphic side of it with you, but okay, so I'll upload a recording and that'll have to do. It'll be the next best thing. All right. So thank you much for your time and attention. I know it's Friday. We're all done. You're all done. Enjoy the rest of your day. Don't get wet. And I won't see you next week. Enjoy your Easter Friday, your Good Friday off. I know you're not going to take it off. You're just going to work anyways. So,
pass your bunnies over this area so we can have some chocolates too.
Yeah, there you go. If you like chocolate, it's a good time to be a chocolate fiend. Anyway, enjoy your week. Enjoy your next week. I'll see you in class in a couple. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. You have a good weekend.
All right. Thank you. You
Bye.
too. Cheers.